Hi, and welcome to Splunk Tech Talks. Our security edition today is focused on intelligence management and Splunk SOAR. Tech Talks is a series of short webinars that are deep dives for technical practitioners. We value you and want you to continue in your Splunk journey. Our experts help create and present these best practices so you can leverage them in your daily role. I'm Steve Chamalis, a product manager at Splunk. My colleague Philip Royer and I are excited to tell you about recently released Splunk SOAR and intelligence management solutions for Intel-driven automation and event handling. In this talk, we are going to define the goal for using Intel and automation together, discuss challenges to achieving that goal, mention new tools to reduce those challenges, demo those new tools, and then mention additional resources to help you take advantage of intelligence management capabilities in Splunk SOAR. Our team will be available for Q&A throughout this talk via the Q&A widget. And if you watch a recorded version of this webinar, please continue the conversation through the Tech Talk discussions in the Splunk community at splunk.com/Tech Talk. Security teams have many goals. With respect to Intel and automation, security teams need to use intelligence from multiple sources to drive automation. Much of this automation is focused on security event processing. There are challenges to using Intel to drive automation. Every Intel producer stores their Intel in their own schema with its own structure and field names. Intel producers often provide a variety of scores about their intelligence artifacts and use a variety of scales for those scores. Intelligence producers often use a variety of servers or APIs to make their data available to their users. They regularly update their schemas and APIs, which breaks existing automation. And the learning curve to learn the schema, scale, and API for all the Intel producers in your stack can be steep. Splunk SOAR and Intel Management, formerly TruSTAR, have come together to help reduce these challenges. Splunk Intelligence Management ingests intelligence from 70 plus sources, normalizes, prioritizes, prepares it, and disseminates it into the tools you need it in. In this case, we're discussing Splunk SOAR. Combining Splunk SOAR with Splunk Intelligence Management alleviates all of these challenges so security personnel can focus on investigating and responding to security threats. How have we done this? First, we created an indicator reputation action that delivers normalized multi-source indicator enrichment to your playbooks, significantly reducing the size and scope of those playbooks and enabling you to automate off of normalized scores, properties, and attributes about that indicator. A new community playbook helps expedite investigations by writing a note to the SOAR investigation container that shows enrichment from all Intel sources about all of the investigations cyber observables. To help rapidly respond to indicators of compromise, this prompt both shows the user all enrichment about an indicator and enables the user to specify subsequent actions to perform on those indicators, thereby eliminating the need to pivot between tools, tabs, or views when transitioning from investigating or reading enrichment about an indicator to specifying a response to that indicator or an action to perform to process that indicator. Now I'll pass things over to Philip to demo these new tools.
Hi, this is Phil Royer from Splunk. So today I want to show our two newest community playbooks in Splunk SOAR. These two playbooks are called TruSTAR Enrich Indicators and Threat Intel Investigate. Threat Intel Investigate is the parent playbook, meant to operate on all events coming in that have indicators that can be enriched with threat intelligence. And it calls this child playbook called TruSTAR Enrich Indicators, which uses TruSTAR to run a single action across many different indicator types and to gather threat intelligence about those indicators. So in this video, I want to introduce how you can use these playbooks if you're starting fresh with a SOAR instance that doesn't have the required apps yet. Then I want to do a quick demo of showing the playbook in action. And finally, I'll step through the two playbooks and show how they work under the hood. So, first of all, if you don't have it synchronized already, you can come in here and synchronize your playbook repo. So if you hit this little sync button or update button, select community and hit update just to make sure that you have those playbooks. And then the next thing you would do is look at the apps required. So this one only uses the TruSTAR app. So say we're on a new SOAR instance, we can come in, go to apps, find the TruSTAR app. It's unconfigured because we don't have an asset yet. We can configure a new asset with this newest version of the app. If you just call it TruSTAR, then that'll align with the playbook and you won't have to change anything there. This URL is generally always the same, so you enter that there. Next, you need an enclave ID. So if you're in TruSTAR, you go to your workflows, and you can select whichever workflow is pulling those Intel sources that you care about for this playbook. And you can also just select all of them so that you have the full access of sources available to your playbook. Then we can grab an API key, also from the same screen. And finally, a secret from the same screen. Once you save those, you probably don't want to save the password. You can press test connectivity and make sure it's working. In this case, it is. So now that you've got the apps required for these playbooks, let's turn them on. I'll start with Threat Intel Investigate, which is the parent playbook. So this one is meant to be set to active, and you can pick whichever label you want. Events is the default label, but for this case, I know I have events coming in under Splunk Threat, so I'll grab that. I will set it to logging and active just so I can see what it's doing and so that it will execute. And then we're moving it from the community repo to the local repo. So I'll just hit save and that'll default to local. And then finally for the TruSTAR specific playbook, we are going to just turn it on in local. So just open it up and save it, moving it from community to local again. So now that we've got those two playbooks configured, I want to show them in action. So this is the analyst queue, where events come in and they get assigned to the correct person or team. And from here we can also monitor which playbooks are running. So the newest event that came in actually grabs the analyst's attention with a prompt. I could respond to the prompt here, but I'm just going to step in to show what the playbook was doing. The first playbook that ran was the one we had just set to active, Threat Intel Investigate. And you can tell that it called another playbook called TruSTAR Enrich Indicators, which is the child playbook in this example. There's only one action here. It's the indicator reputation action. And we actually are using the same action here for various indicator types, which is a difference between this app and other threat intelligence apps, where this makes it easier to write the playbook because we have just one indicator reputation action that can use IP addresses, file hashes, email addresses, Bitcoin addresses, domain names, URLs. There's any number of others. And I'll show in the playbook inputs which types we can accept. So the playbook has executed, and we can see on the timeline that we took in 3 artifacts here. We called the sub playbook, we created a prompt, and an analyst note was written to the event. But let's take a look at the root event. It's excessive usage of a service utility. So that's a Windows event that came out of the MITRE framework, and the detection was written by our Enterprise Security Content Updates team, the Splunk Security Research team. And we have a file hash that was the executable in this case, some network traffic, and then we actually see that there was an email address associated, and in this case it was part of the executable itself. And so the playbook that ran actually took in this event and created a prompt for me to take a look at. So that's my decision point. Given these indicators and the tags on them from TruSTAR, what action do I want to take for each indicator? So this is a new sort of prompt. It's a dynamic prompt built with custom Python that lists out different options for each indicator in the table. And it sums up all the threat enrichment from TruSTAR. So for the first one, TruSTAR didn't have anything for that IP address, so I'm not going to take action on it. But for the file hash, it actually came back as karma and ransomware. The threat actor was karma, the type was ransomware. So I'm going to actually block it and make sure that that is reflected in the tags. And then similar from the email address, I am going to block outbound email to that address and any incoming if there was, because that, as we'll show, if we're digging into the threat intel, that's actually associated with the ransomware as well. And so I'm going to complete this prompt. But the other thing you can note is that if you did want to dig deeper on any of these, you can actually pop open the TruSTAR UI, and we can take a look at any intel that was gathered for each of these things. So we can see that I think this is Alien Vault is actually showing a report linking that file hash to a known ransomware actor. And if we wanted, we could follow that all the way to the actual source report and read a little about what it's doing. But there's a number of different indicators in here that are associated. So we might take that as another action item and dig deeper on what's happening with each of those indicators. But at this point, I've seen enough to respond to the prompt. I'm actually going to tag the indicators in the Splunk SOAR indicator table as tag to block. And then if we have any playbooks such as a Carbon Black or a CrowdStrike or a Sentinel-1 playbook that can actually block file execution on endpoints, this tag could be used to trigger those playbooks and manage those indicators in any other process that we need. So I'm going to complete that prompt, and we're just going to get a little feedback here in the bottom left showing that the tags were applied to the indicators. So in this case, for the file hash, for example, you can see it's marked for block. And we also took the priority score out of TruSTAR, and we tagged it there as well. So let's dig into how each of these playbooks actually works. The first one's going to be the parent playbook, Threat Intel Investigate. So the first thing the playbook does is it lists out all the playbooks that we have on this system that are input playbooks that have these two tags, Investigate and Threat Intel. And it looks in the local repository, and that's the reason why at the beginning I showed switching that TruSTAR playbook to local. So once you've set a playbook that is in local and it has those tags, the next thing we're going to do is look for each of the types of indicators that are in the container or the event. So this is indicator collect is the custom function. It just gathers all the indicators and their types. And then we pair the two together using some Python. We take each of the playbooks that we listed and each of the indicators we listed, and anytime there's a playbook that operates on that indicator type, we execute the playbook. The playbook takes in the indicator as an input, and the output is some notes, a note title and a note content. We take those notes, we add them to the event that this playbook is running in, and then we prompt an analyst using a custom prompt, which we showed, and we ask for each indicator in there, which response tag do you want to put on it? We receive the results of that, again using Python, and then we tag those indicators with the tag that the analyst selected. And if you remember, we had two sets of tags. There were pre-configured tags that the playbook editor can set up for the analyst to just click on, and then the analyst can also type in tags that they want. So the second playbook is the child playbook that's called by that launch playbooks block. So let's open that one up here. So this playbook is called TruSTAR Enrich Indicators. And the way it works is it takes as input any number of types that are supported by TruSTAR and Splunk SOAR. So these are the types that are listed there. And as Splunk SOAR adds new custom types, you can drop them in here. For instance, Bitcoin addresses, we don't see a lot of those in SOAR, so those aren't here yet. But you could add those if you have them in a custom field. And then we have, so the indicator's input is then passed into the indicator reputation action, which queries the API in TruSTAR and gathers back those results that we showed in the prompt. For each indicator that had a result, we are going to tag that indicator with the priority score from TruSTAR. So that's nice because a lot of different Intel sources use different fields and techniques for managing the severity or the impact of an indicator being seen in your environment. And so TruSTAR actually takes those and normalizes them into a small set of different priorities. And so the playbook here is going to just take that priority score out of TruSTAR and tag it on the indicator in Splunk SOAR. And then finally, we showed that note, which is the same threat intel enrichment as we showed in the prompt. And so we're building that note here and plugging it in to the outputs of the playbook. So one more time, back in the parent playbook, I just want to point out that there's nothing specific to TruSTAR in this parent playbook. And that's because we want this to be able to be used to refer to multiple different types of Intel enrichment. So if you create a new playbook and you tag it with these tags investigate and threat intel, you can simply save it to local, and this playbook will immediately pick it up and start executing that new playbook and taking the notes from that playbook and using it to provide a prompt to the analyst. So in that way, you could have 3 or 4 or 5 different threat intel playbooks, all called by this parent playbook, and all managed so that they're run at the same time on each new event that matches that label. And I think that's all we had for today. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Phil, for that demo. We're ready to wrap up this talk, but before we do, we want to share the resources available to you to continue your journey. You will receive these assets and the recording in a follow-up email. The Intelligence Management for Splunk SOAR product brief will give you more information on the Splunk Intelligence Management and Splunk SOAR integration. The video provides details on the Splunk Intelligence Management and Splunk SOAR integration capabilities for phishing triage. And finally, the blog post will give you further details on the playbook demo you saw today. Don't forget that we have an incredible community of Splunk users on our community site. You can search the answers section for intelligence management. You can continue the conversation for this talk within the discussions section, where you will find all the additional resources. And finally, there is Splunk Ideas, where you can submit new product enhancements or vote for current ideas from other customers. We really appreciate you joining us today. Please tune back in for future Tech Talks. We are excited to share this series with you.